What's going on, folks? Today we're at a little public dock doing some ice fishing. I'm gonna cover the top 5 best trout lures through the ice. Stay tuned. Hope you guys enjoy the video. So we're gonna go in order here from smallest to biggest. The number 1 we got here is flies. Now, it's something not very many people think about doing through the ice, but it's could be potentially the most effective way to fish for them, because that is pretty much the only thing that most of those trout are eating down there. They don't have much of a choice. They don't have dry flies. They don't have, most places don't have bait fish that they're eating. They are eating small aquatic insects down there, especially midges, because midges still hatch in colder months. Any type of small fly, like a little perdigon nymph, and most likely the ones with the little heavier weights are going to be easier to fish with, but any of those super small flies are going to be just crucial when you're fishing through the ice, especially on those finicky days where those fish don't want to move up and down very much. They don't want big presentations. They want just something super small and easy little, quick pickup on their way. There are companies that actually make small fly lures as well, but in my opinion, at that point, you might as well just use a tungsten jig. If you really want something that subtle, I recommend tying, or buying those little size 16, 18, nymphs that you would get from a fly shop. Although you can jig them, I would suggest leaving those on your dead stick rods, because those midges really aren't doing much in the water column. They're not swimming away. They're not, doing a lot of movement. So I think it's more realistic to leave those just dead stick, letting them just sit there. I think it's going to be easier for those fish to really quickly just swim by, pick it up, and go. The number 2 way is hands down my favorite way to target trout through the ice, and that is with a small tungsten jig. For some strange reason, something about a small tungsten jig tipped with a piece of nightcrawler or, mealworm or waxworm is just the way to go. In fact, my brother's hooked up right now on a tungsten jig. There's something about that super subtle presentation that just really, really gets them. You can still control the movements. You can bring it up and down the water column. It still reads really well on a fish finder. They're very easy to customize and get different colors and sizes and shapes. It's just the way to go. On finicky fish, you're gonna catch them. On active fish, you're gonna catch them. It works for all type of trout through the ice, not to mention bass, bluegill, perch, pretty much everything. That is hands down my number 1 way to start. You guys will be seeing this underwater footage is with the frostbite jigs. These are like little 3 and 4 millimeters. Those are my 2 favorite sizes to use. You can really customize it with whatever bait in the back you want. Minnows are another thing that work really well tipped on a little jig like that. So yeah, hands down, number 2, that is the best bait you can use through the ice for trout. Number 3 is a sleeper, and it's something that not very many people use through the ice, and that's small hair jigs. Small hair jigs is something that I haven't used very much until this year. I fished a couple bodies of water that had some bigger, more active trout, and those white hair jigs really came in clutch and got me and my dad more fish than just your standard tungsten jig. So the nice thing about the hair jigs is that for you fly tiers, they are very easy to customize. You can put a little flash in there. White and blacks tend to be the best colors, but you can work with olives, reds, customize. You can do custom colors. You could do half white, half blue, like a little blueback, bait fish, or there's so many things you can do to customize it. You can still tip a little piece of bait on the back as well. Hands down, one of the best ways I think that is still considered finesse, but gives it a little more pop, a little more action, a little more excitement than just your standard tungsten jig. So it also reads really well on a fish finder, so it's really easy to see up in the water column, on your graph. So hands down, that is the sleeper bait of the 5 here. That is one that I've really grown to love this year, and I will always have them in my ice box from now on. Number 4 here is one that you guys are all familiar with. This is something that you use in open water as well, and that's gonna be spoons. Any type of spoon, from a Castmaster to the frostbite dinner bell. You got a oh, this is small. Dang. Woo. Right as I was talking about another one of the top 5s, boom, that hair jig got crushed. Little stalker, pretty cool. Lure number 4 here is one that all fishermen, whether you're an ice fisherman or a bank fisherman, know and love, and that's going to be your spoons. So whether it's your frostbite dinner bell, right, your Castmaster, your Swedish pimple, any of those vertical jigs like that, those spoons are going to work really good through the ice. This is really, so far, this is the one that causes the most attention under the ice. So this is one if you've got really active fish, or if you're targeting big fish, and you really are trying to call them into your area, it's going to do a lot better of a job than, say, you know, the flies or the tungsten jigs. I know a lot of people that actually pair up, they do two. So you do a big spoon next to you, and then your other rod, you've got a small jig. That way you've got both, so you're kind of calling them in with the spoon, and then you go in for the kill with the small jig. But yeah, spoons are an amazing calling card to bring in fish. Tipping it with any little bait on the hook really helps, especially because you call them in with the flash of the spoon, and then once they see the spoon, if it's a little too big for them, they'll target the worm on the hook, which is the one spot you actually want them to eat. So yeah, spoons can be an amazing game changer on a day on the water. You can get real creative with them. There's so many different types out there, and they just get the job done. So yeah, number 4 is gonna be spoons. Number 5 is hands down my favorite way to catch trout through the ice. It's not something that I'm able to do a lot because it's a very tricky bait to use, but it's going to be your big hard baits, right? So your frostbite tantrums, your rattle traps, your big lipless crankbaits, whether it be your big rip and wraps, any of those style of baits I'm putting into one category here. Those are going to be the biggest calling card of all of them, because your spoons may have the flash, but they don't have the noise that a lot of other bait, that these lures will give off. So having that noise and sight to come bring them in is just something that can be so much fun, especially if you have an underwater camera or a graph and you're able to watch the fish and how they react to it under the water. It is definitely not a bait you're gonna be using every trip. There's, I would say, majority of the trips that I go, I don't pull one of those out of my box. I'm just not using it. It's not worth it to me. If I got fish in the area, I don't need to use that. It's not it's a calling card lure, right? So it's not something I need if I know there's fish in the area. If you are trying to call in fish to an area, or you are specifically targeting bigger fish, that is hands down one of the best ways to do it. It is so much fun, the way the power and the fierceness, right, that they hit those baits can be so much fun. It can make for an amazing day on the water. Some of my biggest trout have been caught on little lures like that. So much fun. Definitely something to think about. You got to have one in your box at all times when you're out there. All right, here's some examples of all 5 right here. Number 1, we've got our little flies, right? These are your small Perdigon nymphs. These are right here, I believe, are a size 16. You can go, 12s, 10s. You can go smaller with 18s, 20s. You can really get creative on those. But super subtle, super subtle presentation. If you're spooking them on that, then you might as well just go home. These guys right here are your tungsten, right? These are your little teardrop jigs. These are both by Frostbite. I believe they're both 3 millimeters. You can really get creative with the colors. There's a lot of good options. These you're going to be tipping with a little wax worm or something on the end. I typically don't like to tip it with much, something much farther than the hook, because I want them, if they're eating that little bait on the back, I want them to get the hook in their mouth. So I typically don't do like a super long worm on the end. I like rip off a worm and put like a little centimeter long piece on there. Well, those are the teardrop jigs. Right here we have our hair jig. If you notice, this one's a lot bit bigger than the other ones, but you can also customize this with sizes and get smaller ones. This one here is the white with flash. This is what does really well out here at Henry's Lake. Just destroys them for some strange reason. The white really gets them done there. But you can get creative and do blacks. You can do like little custom, like little yellow perch colors on there. There's a lot you can do with the hair jigs, but super cool little presentation. Number 4 here, we have our spoons, right? I don't know what brand this one is, but I've been having some good luck on that one. This one's probably my favorite of all time. This is the Frostbite Dinner Bell. This one has been just slamming me some trout recently. That one is a blast, load of fun. It's got that little extra piece in the middle that helps rattle and create some noise. And they got a bunch of good colors too, but I think pink's probably one of my favorites for trout. So there's the spoons, and now these are my favorite right here, these little rattle baits. If you notice, this one's a little more of a bait fish pattern. It's a little, thicker of a pattern. This one is a little more elongated, right? This one looks a little more like your standard rattle trap. This is the Frostbite Mini Tantrum. This one has gotten me some nice fish already. This one actually works really well for bass and bluegill as well. But I will tip, like on each hook, I'll tip a little piece of waxworm on the end, and that tends to get it. Yeah, there is all 5 right there. These are pretty much the best of the best for each. I absolutely love all these right here. They'll get you fish. If you guys enjoyed this video, you're also gonna love the 2 up here. Hope you guys got something out of today's video. If you guys want me to do more informative videos, I certainly will. These are pretty easy to make, and I like sharing off some of this knowledge. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys next time on Humbug Videos.